Good morning. Happy Mother's Day to the mommies. How is everybody this morning? Oh, I'm Chris. My group is Find Your High Vibe. I'm also sharing into Dee's group, Turning Your Pain into Power. So, it's a chilly day. Yesterday I sat down and watched Becoming, Michelle Obama, Netflix, and I listened, audiobook Becoming. I listened to her book last year when it came out and loved it very much. So yesterday, Becoming, the Netflix version, is pretty much just her book tour. I think there were 34 cities, including St. Paul. So it's her going around to different cities on her book tour and talking about her childhood and her time in the White House. So in the book, she didn't mention it in the Netflix special, but in the book she talks about pivots. And she talks about times in her life where she hit these points that she called pivots. And I may have mentioned that a couple weeks ago. It wasn't really a dream. I've been waking up in the middle of the night a lot lately and just getting stuff, and then it's so profound. I have to make a note. I have to write it down, or I know I'll forget. And oh my gosh, I got a lot of stuff last night, but a couple weeks ago, there was just a moment where I could see it just felt like I could see the treasure map of my life and all the pivots and all the things that brought me to where I am. So when she talks about pivots, I think she talked about a college. Was there a guy? Yeah, there was a boyfriend in college and then grad school. So kind of like the typical stuff. But then yesterday during the documentary, she said she just kind of followed what was expected of her path, which I kind of share, I feel. And but her older brother, Craig, went to Princeton. And then when she thought about going to Princeton, her guidance counselor told her she wasn't cut out for it, which made her want to do it more. So good for that guidance counselor, because maybe she wouldn't have been as motivated. I think that is the kind of stuff that sets people up. So the things that had to happen for her brother to go to Princeton and then her to decide to follow, I think there are a lot of stories in there, and I don't remember them from the book. And then to go on to Harvard Law School, and then to start practicing in Chicago when a person, I think he's a couple years older than her, but she had already graduated and started in her job. She'd been there for a year when he came along. I don't know if he was a second year or a third year law student at that point when they met. I think he was a second year. But everything that had to happen to bring those two together at that point. And I think her entire childhood and education and up to that point, her life up to that point, was getting her ready to be the historical figure that she is. And like, you could not pick a better first lady, I think. But her life completely prepared her for that, set her up for that, put her on that path to being who she is. So to me, those aren't pivots. Those are, I want to say, preparation points, but that's a little too close. I'll come up with something witty and clever. It'll be in my book. So yeah, this has to be another book project for me, because I love talking about that. Looking back, and I have to come up with a course in the next couple weeks, and I think that's going to be my first course, finding the pivots. You know how people like to take you through rewriting your story. I think going back through your story and finding those pivot points, to me, it's it's reassuring that there's a bit of a blueprint that I'm following. And I like that. I like that I'm being prepared for other things. And the people who, when those points come up in your life, every day there are points when you can make a choice. Am I going to be brave, or am I going to shrink back a little bit? Am I going to move forward, or am I going to shrink back? And if you've consistently moved forward in your life, then you've done some pretty cool shit, I imagine. But when you shrink back and you don't keep moving forward, that's when you get stuck. That's when things happen that keep trying to push you. If you're not seeing those signs or following those breadcrumbs, eventually something's going to come along and smack you upside the head and drag you that way. It's always more pleasant if you go willingly, I think. So, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And I hope you have a lovely Sunday. And tomorrow is not a busy Monday for me, so I will see you again at 9:45. Take care.